All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. I know it's been a little while since I got to work on that 37 Ford, but I want to take y'all through the work I've been doing. We've been installing the Kindig-it door handles, the smooth flush Tesla style door handles in the doors, as well as reassembling the doors and repairing everything. So I've got one door done. I've got the passenger door still opened up so I can show y'all how I did it. This isn't exactly a step-by-step. It's more or less just show you how I did this. I was looking for some information on how somebody else has installed these door handles in like a 37 Ford or something similar, something with such a real skinny door. And so it took me quite a while to figure out the driver's side. But once I did, I had some templates going of everything I did. So the passenger side went really quick. But I want to take y'all through everything I did in case you're trying to do the same thing in a similar style door. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Kindig-it door handles, they sell a couple different models. They sell them in chrome, they sell them raw. What they are is essentially an aftermarket style door handle where you have an actual handle flush mount in there, and just like on a Tesla, you simply push in on the rear and the front edge comes out so that you can get a hold of it and open the door. Now, the handle itself, as you can see here, we have ground it flush with the panel so that when everything is painted, everything will be nice and smooth and slick down the side. We aren't going to have a bunch of attachments hanging off the side of this car. But one thing to note, these handles come perfectly flat. So in a situation like this where the door has curvature, where we wheel these doors out, and the factory doors, they've got a slight curve. So we had to actually grind the face of the inner piece, the actual handle mount itself that you weld into the door. We had to grind those with the curvature of the door, and then once we got everything cut out where we got our position, you actually weld it right around just this edge here and go back and clean it up. I still got to do a little bit of cleaning up on this one, but the outside has been ground down nice and flush. But it welds in right around the edge here, and then you can kind of reinstall that door handle. And what I ended up doing was reinstalling the handle after I welded it in, and then I ground the actual handle itself to match the curve. So I basically went across it with like a 36 grit flap wheel on electric 4.5 inch grinder, and ground and ground and ground until I got everything pretty much flat. I'll go back and do a little more refining with probably a file. And then once we do some body work and paint, we're going to get a little build up on the door anyway. It's some film build. We'll leave the handles in when we do all of that so we can get everything nice and flush. Now on the driver's door here, you can see right off the bat, I've made an access panel. The way these doors are designed is just a complete section right here. It did have a few places where you could get in there and do a couple little things, but you got to remember, a long time ago they just had one little simple handle, just basically as simple as this is right here on the inside handle. So we had to get a little more complicated with these door handles. They don't function quite the same as something old in 1937, so it was kind of tricky getting everything to fit in here. Obviously you can see on this one here how I did the interior door handle. Very simple setup. I kept everything factory as we got back here, and then I installed basically a pivot bar with a 1/4 inch bolt right here that actuates the rod underneath for the latch right there. Very simple setup to work with these bear claw latches that we installed. So let me take you to the other side and I'll show you exactly what's going on inside there and why I want to show y'all why I had so much trouble. All right, so taking a peek on the outside of these doors, you can see they're not very wide. That's about 3.5 inches or so. at its widest point, so it doesn't leave you with a whole lot of room to install anything. You can see how narrow the original latching mechanism is. Not really much to it. And then the bear claw system here, it's substantially wider than the other one. So what we ended up doing, we filled in the holes here. This is where the original latch bolted in. But I actually went down below to where they have, this was a factory kind of alignment setup. I used that point in the body to make the striker area. So the striker area is down here where that originally was, and then up above here is where the actual latch would just latch in behind these notches. It's kind of like your house door. Now also, in trying to get everything in here, we had to keep in mind of where the window is, and you can see how far in this window channel comes. You know, these door handles, they're pretty thick, but there's not a lot to them. Now you'll notice on the handles here, originally there were screws that went through these little blocks. These hold that pivot bolt that everything actually pivots on. I had to remove the heads of them, so what I did was I welded the blocks to the base, and then I welded the center block to the movable part of the handle also. So I had to eliminate those because there is really no room right here to actually, you know, have the heads of those bolts. Even if I used a button head bolt, there still would be very, very little room. Things would still be touching. So we just opted to weld those in. And as far as the window channel itself, it originally was spot welded in with a weld down here and a weld up here. So what I was able to do was just switch those out. Instead of re-welding it back in, I just added some U-nuts, and we bolted it back in. So now I can remove that piece and actually be able to get in there to remove this bolt, move that handle out of the way, so when we go to paint everything gets done properly, and then I can reinstall it all. Now, as far as how the mechanism works, you'll see there is a rod just welded to a 1/4-inch bolt right here with a lock nut so that it can pivot. Just a piece of 3/16 rod going up to another mechanism there. Now this is basically based off of a factory style door handle. This is a Nova door handle, and you can see how it has this pivot piece right here. So when you push the button, it pivots it up and it operates a rod to actuate the door latch. This works in the same manner. It welds in to the top here, and so it allows you to operate it in that manner. If you had some other type of latch in there, you know, like a factory GM latch, you could essentially maybe weld like a little bolt to it, so it just pushed on that latch mechanism. If you're familiar with like a 80s model Chevrolet door latch, you just kind of push in on them. Even the 60s, actually, you just push in on them through the door and it operates the lever. So this basically will do the same thing. So as you operate it, it pushes something out in a very similar fashion to the way, you know, a factory handle does. So it took a little finagling to get that in there. You can see there is little to no room. I actually had to take their brackets and cut about a 1/4 inch out of them to make everything fit. And this is a weld-on piece, so you can kind of weld it wherever you really need it. And like I say, we didn't have many options. We had to squeeze it on down in there. So everything is super tight, but it doesn't appear that nothing is going to be rubbing or bothering anything. Now, I've already got this inside here primed up, so I can go ahead and I'm going to Cleco the inner panel back in. I'll Cleco the angle brace that goes across it, get that stuff back in, get the door back on the car, and then while everything is latched shut, I will actually go through and weld that piece in so that that's taken care of, and then we can get some primer on the inside of everything and move on to hopefully to something else, whether we're going to be doing the body next or doing the deck lid. Haven't made my mind up yet, but I want to get these taken care of first. So just wanted to give you all that little bit of information on how I did everything. Just if you're looking for that type of stuff, you know, I was looking around for a lot, couldn't find any real information on how somebody did it, so wanted to show y'all if you're looking to try to do the Kindig-it door handle in something like an old Ford door, show you how I did it. So I'm not sure how many different ways you could do it. It's, like I say, it's very tight in there. But just wanted to show y'all how I did it. So hopefully you learned a little something. If you did, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and tap that bell, and I'll catch you on the next one.